Hey there and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be ranking 7 eyeshadow palettes in my collection which have been recently added, and I've had plenty of time to play with them, try them out, use lots of different colors in them, and really formulate a solid opinion on the quality, the packaging, the product itself, the finished looks, etc. I did do today's eyeshadow look with one of the palettes in today's video, so I will link that in the description box and I can put it in the cards as well if you're curious. But let's just dive right in because I know that you're as eager to get to this as I am. Incredibly, all of the palettes featured in today's video have been given to me by subscribers or viewers. I think a couple came from someone who doesn't technically subscribe to my channel, but she happened upon one of my videos and graciously gave me a whole box of what I believe was PR that she wasn't planning on using. So that was super exciting. I do have a code with one of the brands in here, so I'll pop that on the screen when I get there. And also I will link the palettes if they're still available, which I think most of them are. Most of them are still available. I'll link them in the description box as well. Let's dive in first with the first palette I've ever tried from Give Me Glow Cosmetics. This is the Christmas Morning palette. This one was, like I said, it's the first thing I tried from the brand, and I think that this is very nice quality. It's ranking where it is because the color story doesn't really excite me. I think it's pretty, and each time I've used this palette, I've been pleasantly surprised and delighted with the look. Honestly, the finished product is really pretty. It's just, it's not really stimulating and exciting to me. The quality's lovely, and the mattes especially. The shimmers are really, well, not even especially. The shimmers are really striking and beautiful. I think that the reason it's not exciting to me is because it feels a little bit incomplete. I mean, you could do a look with, like, starting with this, use this as a blending out shade, but this is a little bit dark for my skin tone for a blending out shade. And I mean, it depends on skin tone, right? And this is all preference. So I hope I'm not offending anybody if, you know, something that you like is lower on my list. It really comes down to preference. I think that I would prefer if this were a little bit lighter because it would be a better blending out shade for this and for this. Or if this were a little bit lighter, it could be a blending out shade for this because you've got the two cool tones happening. I don't tend to go for monochromatic looks, so having a reddish matte and a reddish shimmer, not super exciting. The gold shimmer I think is pretty, but there's nothing to really work me into the gold except maybe this. So if I wanted to do like a gold and neutral look, then I feel like there would be a bit of a disconnect. I'm not sure. It doesn't quite feel fully there. I will say this shade at first I thought was just a green shimmer, but it actually has kind of a silvery brownie sort of base. So this would be really pretty to pair with the gold. It would also be pretty to pair with this one. So on the whole, I think it's working, but it's not 100%. And that for me just comes down to color story. This is also, I believe Give Me Glow is reformatting or rebranding, I guess, and they are now issuing products with their smaller pan sizes. So there's a lot of shadow in here. I would never get through it all. I like it. It's just, of these 7, it's not at the top of the list. The next 2 palettes are from a brand which is now out of business, and they were purchased with like a, you know, liquidation sale. We have from Colored Raine the Pretty Chic palette. This is falling where it is mainly because it's more or less monochromatic. Obviously we have 2 shades here which are not fully pink, but this is pretty pink. It's like a silvery pink, mid-tone, you know. This one's different and this is purple, but on the whole it's a pink palette with a couple of, you know, complementary shades. It's pretty, and honestly the Colored Raine formula in particular, in this case in particular, the mattes, really nice. Like their mattes were solid. These shimmers, I found this one to be kind of unexciting and this one to be kind of interesting. This is not really very shimmery. It's more like a slightly gritty topper shade, and it's somewhere in there that you get a lot of little reflects of light, kind of like snow. You know when you look at snow and it catches the sunlight and you see it's opalescent in that you've got a little flash of green and pink and blue and just these little hints of color everywhere, but on the whole it's white. This kind of feels like that. When you use it as a full swatch, you're going to get more of a pink effect, but it's got a white base and it's a very lightweight shimmer. It's pretty, and I think that this palette, given the fact that it's a 6-pan, it's okay with balance. You got a darker shade, too darker actually. In my opinion, this could have been more pastel to give us more contrast, and one of these could have been maybe a slightly more purple leaning shimmer, but this one does work for that. So it's fine. It's fine. I'm not inclined to reach for 6 pans because they're just, I mean, I might use 4 to 6 shadows in a look. And so if I'm using every shade in a palette for one look, I feel like it's not very exciting to me because There weren't even choices. It was just, well, here you go. This is what I'm going to do. Or in the case of this, I'm not likely to use all 3 of these pink mattes. Like, I wish that if I were going to use 6 shadows in a look, that I would have a little bit more variety within those 6. And also from Colored Raine is the Secret Garden palette. This one is falling a little bit higher because despite the fact that it doesn't have any shimmers, I feel like it has a little bit more to work with within the color story. I wish that we didn't have 3 that are quite close here, although I love this one. I would definitely keep this one and probably make this a little lighter or maybe a little bit more of a true yellow. But what I mean as far as a bit more of a well-rounded color story, there's more to work with, this yellow can blend out that. And it can blend out that, and it can blend out that, because it's kind of a weird murky yellow. It's got a hint of green, it's got a hint of bluey color, it's got a hint of brown, it's very warm, but it could go a bit cool tone. It's just a funky color. And because of that, it works with the 3 main, or rather the 4 main mattes in the palette. So you could actually take this little 6 pan and go at least 3 different directions with just that color. Even though it doesn't have shimmers, I mean, it's easy for me to just grab a shimmer from anywhere else and have a really fun and interesting foundation made with the Secret Garden palette. Now for the palette which I used in today's eyeshadow look. This is from Nomad Cosmetics. I have a code with Nomad. It is the code SHIMMERS and it will save you 10%. It's non-affiliated. So this is the Fuji 5 Lakes palette. And I was very, very pleased the first time I used this palette. I kind of centered and focused on the yellowy tones on the whole, although I did bring in some other shades. And I thought that it was great. While there wasn't enough variety within these 3, in my opinion, each one was really lovely. I think I might have gotten a tiny bit of patchiness or maybe not quite as much pigmentation as I wanted with this shade here, but this is what I used on my inner corner today, and I didn't have any problems. It's just a light shade. On the whole, this I think is a little bit more pastel on the skin than it appears in the pan. The Diamond Fuji shade is kind of like that gritty toppery one from Pretty Chic. Not as gritty, it's a little bit smoother than that, but it's definitely a topper shade, and you can see that on my almost my full lid space. I also today used this in my whole outer crease. I deepened with both of these blues, and then this is a blue shimmer on my lid as well. Oh, and Mount Fuji is part of my lower lash line. So, okay. I'm a little torn on this palette. I think the color story is great. I think the packaging is fantastic. I don't love navy blue mattes on myself. I rarely use them. And so both of these are just like, they're not too exciting for me. I wish that there was something a little different, especially because we have kind of like slightly seafoamy sorts of greens in this artwork. It would have been fun to get just a flash, just one pan of something along those lines in here instead of 2 mid-tone blues that are very similar. They're different in undertone, but they're kind of similar. Or instead of 2 blue shimmers, which again, kind of similar. This one reminds me a lot of a shimmer which is coming later, which I'll try to remember to point out. Anyway, I think the palette's pretty, and the color story and the theming and the layout, you know, you can actually see the mountain in the distance with the topper, Mount Fuji, like a star shining at the top. Beautiful presentation. It's a little bit light. I wish it were a smidge heavier just to make it feel like more quality. But aside from that, my biggest qualm with this is that these 2 blue mattes, both of which I used today, they didn't seem true to pan. I struggled to get either one to appear on my skin the way that they look here. Both of them were lighter than I was expecting, and it could have just been, you know, that shade on my skin tone, but I really think that they weren't quite as pigmented as I was hoping they would be. So I didn't get the depth that I wanted out here. And given that this is basically the darkest shade in the palette, I mean, it's equal with this one, right? But this could have been a little darker yet to give us really great contrast between the 2, light and dark, particularly because we have pastels and enough pans to give a very well-rounded color story. I think it is well-rounded. I just think that these 2 were a little bit lacking and not quite what they could have been. We're gonna get to the top 3 now with a Pat McGrath palette. This is the first thing I've ever tried from the brand. Again, given to me by a very generous and kind subscriber. And this is the Moonlit Seduction. I have used this at least 3 times now. I just posted a video using this palette, and I think that the quality is beautiful. Really, it's really very, very pretty. For the price point, it had better be, right? It's gorgeous, and this is high-end luxury eyeshadow. I couldn't rank it any lower than spot 3 because of the quality. Absolutely beautiful. The reason that it's not higher is the color story. I think the color story is pretty, don't get me wrong. It's very wearable, it's very work appropriate, it's very easy to use. You know, there's no challenge here. You can dive into anything and it's gonna work. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not a very interesting color story. It's not a very exciting color story. It's very safe. And that's fine, you know, and personal preference. If you want something safe, or if you're going for something that's just no fuss, dive in, throw a few shadows on and you're done and it's gorgeous, then this is a good option for that. I think that between these three mattes, I wish that there were one that were just a little bit lighter, or we could have replaced this shimmer. This, in my opinion, is the least exciting shimmer in the palette. It's the most dull and the most unlike the rest that are quite striking and metallic and foiled. So this one just feels like, why would I use it when I could use any of these other ones? In which case, give me a lighter matte, something to blend out this or this or this. This is a nice deepening shade, but again, maybe not quite as deep as I personally would like. On the whole though, it's beautiful quality. I can't really pick it apart aside from I wish that there were just a slight change to make it more optimum and a little bit more cooperative to the consumer. Because if you are somebody who has very fair skin, there's not really a matte in here that you're going to be able to work with to blend away. Like, there's no transition tone or blending out shade. I think that somebody with really fair skin might struggle a little bit with this. They'd have to go in really lightly, tap off any excess, and then just blend away. Now, that being said, these mattes blend like butter. They're very, very nice mattes. So maybe that's the solution. Like, maybe it's not a problem and I'm just imagining it, or taking my experience or my standards, which is largely indie, and saying, well, we need a blending out shade, but perhaps you could just use the mattes that are presented and go in really lightly and blend away. Or you could use a setting powder or something to blend away. Like, there are options. I'm just saying, since the whole purpose of a ranking video is to pick things apart a little bit, that's where I'm gonna put this one. I struggled a bit with the middle palettes in today's video, in particular the last four, and the reason that this palette is landing higher than a brand like Pat McGrath is color story. I'm going with the Nomad Polar Express palette. Again, with the packaging, with the attention to detail, with the theming on point. When I did today's eyeshadow look, if you watched this video, I'll be talking all about Nomad and what I like about their brand, because they do a good job. But anyway, the reason that this ranks above Pat McGrath is simply that it has more variety in the color story. It has more depth within that variety. We've got cool tones, warm tones, sort of winey burgundy kinds of shades over here, a little bit of flash of purple tone with this Polar Express shade. And this is the one that slightly reminds me of that other blue shimmer in the Fuji palette, which I can show you. Okay, I'm talking this one and this one. This one has a little bit more purple in it. Can you see in the camera? It's a little duochromatic, not super striking, but it is there. There's some purple. This one seems to have a little bit of purple as well, but there's less of it and it's more of a blue-based purple. It might not actually be monochromatic, it might just be the undertones. I don't know if you can see at all what I'm talking about, so hopefully I'm not just, you know, flapping the palettes back and forth like an idiot. But anyway, I felt like these two were pretty close. I felt that these two were pretty close, and neither one of them was super impressive because they both feel a little bit, a little hard pressed, a little bit just less impactful than I want, honestly. But anyway, we've got true neutrals in here, and again, a really nice range. Like, this is a nice light tone, this is a nice mid-tone, and this is a nice dark tone. Personal preference, I could tweak each one a little bit further, a little bit lighter and a little bit darker and a beautiful mid-tone, but that's okay. Almost the same thing with the blues, light, mid-tone, dark, and this blue is incredibly striking. It's so good. This is a lovely white, this is a great silver. I don't use silver hardly ever, but it's a good silver. So I think that this palette gives me a little more variety, but it also has those safe, usable, friendly, approachable, work-appropriate kinds of tones that Pat McGrath offers. It just gives me a little bit more. It might come down to quality. If I want high quality and really impactful shimmers, I would go with the Moonlit Seduction. But if I want something which is also very good quality and just gives me a little bit more variety or contrast, you know, if I want to do an inner corner pop or inner corner highlight, or if I want a true neutral tone without a pink lean, or if I want to go with something a little bit more warm or metallic-y, but maybe, honestly, maybe just less striking. Maybe you don't want to look as foiled, you want something that's a bit more wearable. I think that this is a good option, and I've gotten some really lovely looks out of this. I've gotten lovely looks out of Mothership as well, but I've gotten more variety out of this. And finally, in my number one spot, I'm putting a cute little palette from Ensley Raine. This is Hoppy Go Lucky, also given to me. So grateful. This palette is landing in number one because even though it's a 6-pan and I kind of forget about the little guys, it's really varied in just 6 pans. You have lightness, you have depth, you have 2 mid-tone shades which are totally different. So you could go more mauvey, purple, lavender, lilac-y kinds of colors, or you could go significantly warmer with a salmon sort of tone and still deepen it. Same story with these shimmers. This is like, is it pink? Yeah, it can go pink, or it can go purpley depending on if you pair it with this one or if you just keep it with this, or it could go more salmon, orange, peach with this one. And then you have this shimmer here, which again, same story. It could be more purpley if you put it with this, or it's going to start looking a little more green if you pair it with something lighter or less dominant. It's just really varied, given that it's only 6 shades. And also the Ensley Raine quality, awesome. I mean, I'm going to say it's not my absolute like #1 favorite shimmer formula. It's really good. I just tend to prefer shimmers that are a little bit less flaky and emollient. My favorite shimmer formula at this time, I think, is Unearthly, but this is gorgeous. And I would say the mattes from Unearthly, top quality. The mattes from Unearthly, as I said with the Pat McGrath palette, they just melt. They just melt into your skin. Unearthly is like that. Sydney Grace is like that. Blend Bunny is like that. The mattes are unquestionably great. So this, it's small but mighty, and it's really, really varied. I can get, I mean, at least 4 solidly different looks from this palette with only 6 shades. There you go. I hope you guys have enjoyed my video. Be sure to check the description box for links to each of these palettes, which are still available. Colored Raine is out of business, so I can't link them, but I think everything else is available, or at least you can go to the website and maybe put in a pre-order or something. You know how indie brands do it. I appreciate you so much for being here. I'd love to hear in the comments below, what would your rankings be? If you have any of these palettes, where would you put them? If you have all of them, if you have none of them, then tell me what you are playing with these days, what you're enjoying, or maybe like new purchases that you've made and how you would rank them at this time. Thank you so much for being here. Perhaps you'll consider liking and subscribing before you go. If you want to see more content like this, I appreciate you so much, and I hope that you have a lovely day.